All right, we about to have some black on black violent crime here, boys and girls. It's going down. Kevin Holland versus Derek Brunson. Derek is more than a super solid 185-pound journeyman. Like I don't know, he's inches away, millimeters away, maybe centimeters away from a hair's breadth away from being elite. Derek Brunson is his stand-up's pretty good. He's at Stanford MMA. His stand-up's pretty good. It's made leaps and bounds different. It's just better than it ever has been. He's more patient. He paces himself. He has good cardio. Super strong guy. Super good wrestler. If he's got any weakness, I don't know. Is it jiu-jitsu or is it stand-up? Maybe it's jiu-jitsu, but his wrestling more than makes up for any holes in his jiu-jitsu. So I guess the stand-up would be where you could see any deficits. I mean, we don't see him on his back very often, which there might be a weakness there. But his wrestling's super solid, so you almost never see Derek Brunson on his back. Almost never. It just doesn't happen. So who knows? You got Kevin Holland, who is possibly, this is like his real test to find out if he's elite. Now, don't get me wrong. He just knocked out Jacare. He knocked out Jacare from being on his back with strikes. I think it was a hammer fist, which that does not happen. That's not real. He's got power in his hands. There's only been one other person to ever knock someone out from their back and in the guard. And it was from a closed guard, so that's even more impressive. Was Uriah Hall knocked the guy out? I think it was technically in the UFC's TV show, not The Contender, but anyway, I think of it. But so Uriah Hall was the only other fighter I've ever seen in the UFC knock someone out, and not someone as high level as Jacare. Like Jacare is top of the food chain jiu-jitsu guy. Like when I say Brian Ortega is top 5, top 10 jiu-jitsu, that's because Jacare is in the mix. He had his arm broken, I believe, by Roger Gracie in a jiu-jitsu tournament and didn't tap. Tucked his arm into his gi. Super tough dude. Tucked his arm into his gi under his belt. Finished the match and won on points. Like it doesn't get any more Rambo, any more tough guy than that. So, knocking out Jacare from the bottom, this kid's got to have preposterous strength. He had an interview on the Joe Rogan Experience. His coach was there, Travis Luter, super high-level black belt in jiu-jitsu. His downfall was cutting weight. He lost a title match to Anderson Silva, which he didn't make weight for. He couldn't make weight. He was dehydrated, looked horrible. I think he weighed in like 190. So even if he'd have beat Anderson in Anderson's heyday, Anderson actually beat him, locked him up in a triangle and elbowed him in the head until he tapped, which was a little controversy because people weren't aware that it was legal to do downward elbows from the bottom in that time. People just weren't super clear on that rule. But it is because you can't technically do a 12-6 elbow from the bottom. It turns out to be more of like a 1-7 or a 11-4-5, which I'm speaking super technically, so I'll stop now. My point being is Kevin Holland generated some preposterous level of strength and power to knock Jacare out from his back. Just, it doesn't happen, and not someone as high level as Jacare. You got to hit him, you got to stun him, you got to shock him, and he was landing some bombs from his guard. Now, that being said, will Derek Brunson take him down? Yes. Is Kevin Holland high-level black belt, super comfortable on the ground? Yes. Is he okay standing back up? Yes. Is his wrestling decent? Yes. And if you believe Travis Luter, his head coach, his jiu-jitsu coach, his original coach, his main coach, this kid's got very low ceiling. Like he fights down to his opponents, meaning that he only shows you enough to really beat you. Derek Brunson is a high-level journeyman. He hasn't really, he's made it to the dance a few times, come close to being the champ a few times, a couple fights away, a fight away, had the fight. But he's high level. Like, he's journeyman. He's like a journeyman in the top 10. And, Kevin Holland, we just don't know how good this kid really is. He just did something to Jacare that you're not supposed to be able to do. And you're not supposed to be able to do it to a black belt of Jacare's caliber. You're just not supposed to be able to do it. It's just not something that Joe Smo off the street's going to be able to do. 99.9% of trained fighters aren't knocking out Jacare from their back on the floor. It's with their fist. Not an up kick, with their fist. It's just not something that's happening. And it's shocking. It's stunning. If Daniel Cormier is amazed by it, so am I. The champ, the daddest man on the planet, as Max Holloway calls him. If he's shocked, then I'm shocked. If Joe Rogan's shocked, I'm shocked. I'm just shocked. So Kevin Holland, super high upside on this kid. Supposedly, we haven't even seen how good he is. And it really, against Derek Brunson, and all around a solid fighter, super technical, strong, durable fighter. We're really going to find out how good this guy is. We're really going to find out what Kevin Holland's upside is looking like. Thing is when I look at his coach, someone like Travis Lutter, and you listen to him talk, and he tells you about it, and you find out that Kevin Holland actually has a black belt in a kung fu. I think it was Kempo Kung Fu. I think so. Don't get me wrong. I know Kempo and the word kung fu and the epistemology of it, of where the word comes from. Those words come from Kempo. It's kind of a karate origin, and then kung fu, obviously that's Chinese, but neither here nor there. He's got a black belt in some striking, which I know people are like, well, that doesn't mean anything. Boxing, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, wrestling, those are the only things that really matter. But here's the thing. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's a karate dude, and he can kick. And it just gets you familiar with striking, and it kind of helps explain where some of Kevin Holland's, ridiculous power comes from in his hands. Some of it's genetic, but he's been striking for a really long time. And supposedly the boy can wrestle, and supposedly he can do jiu-jitsu. So it really comes, and he's got some pretty good performances. He's done really well over this whole pandemic season that the UFC's been holding. He's really coming to his own, and we really don't know how good he is. He's aiming for Israel Adesanya. We don't know how much that's just talk and how much that's real. But he's good. He's really good. And his focus is his grappling. His focus is his wrestling. He does some striking. But like I said, he's got that background. And supposedly he's a super smart kid. Derek Brunson's got a super solid, coaches and, team behind him. So I don't think this is going to be an easy fight by any means. And, Derek Brunson's super solid. But I am going to let the cat out of the bag once again. I'm going to let the hawk fly across the sky, the owl come out at night, and let you guys know Kevin Holland. I'm going with Kevin Holland. If this kid is as dedicated, as focused as he appears to be, he's kind of braggadocious, which there's nothing wrong with that. Fighters need that ego to protect them inside and outside of the ring. That he needs that. I like Derek Brunson. I like him as a person. I like him as a fighter. I don't mind seeing him win. He's really good at mixing up his takedowns to strikes and strikes to takedowns. And like I said, he's not going to get tired. That being said, he's fighting another kid that I don't think is really going to get tired. And I've got this hunch that Kevin Holland's going to hold his power late into the rounds. And I feel like this is a kid that's going to be able to do things that you're just not supposed to be able to do. I was like, when Anderson Silva first came out, when he started his run and he fought Chris Lieben, I was super worried about him against wrestlers. And Anderson had his black belt in jiu-jitsu. His wrestling got better over time. He started training started training with not Mark Hamill, but another guy. He started training with these wrestlers. The Professor, I can't think of his real fight name, right? Or his real name right now. His fight name was the Professor. He started training with the Professor, in wrestling, and like his wrestling came leaps and bounds, just super far. And I think this Kevin Holland kid might be one of those 1 in a million fighters. Might be an amazing fight if he can get through Derek Brunson to really come at Israel, give Israel some serious smoke. We're gonna see where the fire's at, and go from there. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, like, subscribe, talk to me. Let me know what you think down in the comments. That's that. Bye. I'm out. That was your best bet.